Okay, this is me talking.
Okay, this is me talking. Test, test.
Test, test, test. Okay, great.
Is this a good distance?
I feel like that's good, yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? Usually what happens, I'll just start. Why don't you just use that? Like, that's the intro.
Oh, okay.
You know what usually happens with the sound check is people talk really quiet.
Yeah.
And then, like, we start recording, and then they go, and then so it's like, why even do a sound check? But, like, it's just better, to just do it anyway.
Yeah. No, I'll stay down here. Don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Quiet.
I'm so excited to have you on my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And you just came in. My neighbor let you in.
Yeah.
Which is, like, nice because I was ready.
Yeah, she was very trusting. She let me right in.
You were like, I'm here to be on Life in Bold.
Yes. Actually, I said nothing and I just strolled in, which I always let people in my building too.
Yeah.
But it's like, I guess I could be letting her, like, I could be a criminal. She doesn't know.
You could be. Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
And you look like one.
I know.
You look like such a badass, like, bank robber.
Yeah, a sexy bank robber.
Yes. Okay, so the reason I wanted to have you on my podcast is for one reason specifically. Are you ready to hear it?
Yeah.
You're so good at improv.
Oh, thank you. I love that. I wish people would like give me jobs for that.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've probably seen you do improv like kind of a lot actually.
Yeah, recently I feel like because we're in the same circle.
We're in the same circle. Are you from Michigan? Mm-hmm. That's how you know. Yeah,
I'm from the west side of Michigan, but I came up in the same theater that like Julia and James and that circle of people. What a gift. Yeah, it really is. And I'm so lucky to like have them here. Like when I moved, they were here already and there's like a community and that's been really nice.
When did you move to New York? 3
years ago.
It's funny. I've met so many more comedy friends. So I've been here for 10 years.
Yeah.
That's like pretty long.
That's famously the number where people are like, oh, you're a New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker. Yeah, you get to say that.
I feel that I am a New Yorker, but that I'm never going to be like a born and bred New Yorker, you know?
No, you won't.
Yeah.
And you can't claim that or people will get mad at you.
Yeah. So I feel like at 10 years, you still have to make that distinction. I feel like 20, you're like, I'm a New Yorker. Like, don't fuck with me.
There's nowhere else like that where you have to like explain yourself.
Literally. Like, I agree.
Because here I always say, I'll say like, I live in Brooklyn. But if people say like, where are you from? I'll say Michigan. But if I'm outside of New York and people say, where are you from? I'll say New York.
I know. I agree. When I first moved here, I went to a comedy show actually with my friend Kelly, who lives in Portland. And we went to this comedy show. And in comedy shows, when someone says like, who's from New York?
Yeah.
You never know. I never know. Like, am I from New York?
Are you
no.
allowed? I think yes. If you're. Oh, this was in New York.
I was in New York.
No, you can't say it.
Yeah, I'm not from New York.
No.
But like you say, if I'm out of New York, then I am from. I didn't come from New York. Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting thing.
Yeah, I don't know who made the rules up. And
I don't know
people
either.
Who I always hear. Like,
I used to think it was Sex and the City that made the rules, but now I know it's not.
Do they ever say that in the show?
They do say in Sex and the City that when you hit 10 years, you can call yourself a New Yorker.
Do you think that's where it comes from?
I feel like they must have picked that up from what people already say.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that Sex and the City would create that.
I've never heard, the people who enforce that are always transplants. I've never heard New Yorkers, like, they don't give a shit, or they'll just say, like, you're not a New Yorker and you'll never be a New Yorker. Right. Yeah. Yeah, but they really don't care. They just don't like you because you moved to New York City. They don't care what you call yourself.
Right. Yeah. So how long have you been doing improv? Like, forever?
I think it's weird because of the pandemic. I think
it is weird because of the pandemic.
Was 2017 or 2018. Oh, wow.
And that was in Detroit?
Yes. That was at Go Comedy.
Yeah.
In Ferndale.
Okay.
Which is a suburb of Detroit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And that's where I did like all my things before I moved here.
And like I just find you to be so funny. Like I really, not to like totally just like blubber about how much I love you, but I just, whenever you're on stage or whenever you're in a show, I'm just so like excited to see what you're gonna do because you have such an original mind. Like you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess everybody has an original mind. That's very flattering. But... Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like that people are so... This is such a dumb statement. People are so exciting, I think, for that reason.
Yeah.
Because everyone's mind is so freaky and different.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone... I met someone at a party, and it was like... everyone at the party was like an artist. Like the birthday party was out of like a visual artist, and so everyone was like painters.
Yeah.
And I talked to this person for like 10 minutes, and he seemed, you know, he was like fine. We had pretty like shallow conversation, and then I went to talk to the birthday boy, and he was like, "Oh, you were talking to so and so. Like he's so weird." I was like, what?
Yeah.
We didn't even get to that.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I want to start with people.
Yeah, right.
Because I love hearing that about, like, I think everyone's weird, but some people you have to, like, really dig for it.
Okay, let's cut to the chase. What makes you weird? What do you think makes you weird?
I mean, I'm definitely weirdest with people that I'm, like, most comfortable around.
Of course.
Unless I'm on stage.
Yeah.
Even then, it's still like, it's improv. I really struggle to be weird, I think, in stand-up. Like, I started doing stand-up when I moved to New York, and I became like, I'm like so deadpan when I do stand-up.
I've been working on my like,
it's really hard.
Stand-up really is hard, and I feel like the people who do stand-up would say improv is really hard.
Of course.
And like people, it's like people who sing.
But they're wrong.
Yeah. It's like people who sing are like, oh my God, stand-up comedy is so hard. But people who do comedy are like, oh my God, music is so hard.
Yeah.
That's why for me, like being a musical comedian, I've conquered all, you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm
you're the
king
top of
art.
the pyramid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yes, you are.
Yeah.
I mean, musical comedy is like so impressive to me. I saw Richard Perez last night.
Oh yeah,
do you know him?
I don't know him personally, but I actually saw him at a show and have been following him on Instagram. And like
so
basically the
funny.
funniest person in the world, right?
Yes, he's so funny, and he's so singularly like him in a way that is so inspirational. And he did a lot of, this was like his solo show, so he improvised a couple songs, which I was like, oh, you can do that.
Yeah,
because I feel like
you've done that.
Yes, but that idea of like doing that with stand up is like, no one's gonna want to watch that.
Yeah,
I was like, he was so good.
Yeah. Okay, now that you bring up improvising songs, I just want to like let it out into the world.
Yeah.
That I went to an open mic night on Tuesday down here at like open at under St. Mark's Theater.
Sure.
And it's this open mic night that I really like, but it does go very long. It goes a long time, and it's a variety open mic. And when the guy Dan who runs it opened the show basically by saying like, this is a place where you can do anything, like you can fail and it's okay.
That's really sweet.
It was sweet. And so then I literally took that advice, and I was like, I'm gonna do something new. And the context in which I exist for this open mic night was that I wanted to boost my confidence, because I was feeling low, and I was like,
that is so brave to go into an open mic night wanting to boost your confidence.
Well, sometimes I have some hit songs. Like I have some songs that like
great songs.
are like they'll get a laugh, they will get in whatever. But I decided somehow in my Brene Brown-esque mind that day that in order to boost my confidence, I needed to take a risk.
Yeah.
Because somehow I convinced myself that like if I take a risk and I succeed, I will feel confident in myself.
Well, I think that's true.
That's true.
Really hard at an open mic.
So anyway, I got there at 9. The doors open at 9. I didn't perform till 12:30.
No.
12:30, and it was a whole situation where like doors open at 9. The show starts at like 9:30, 9:45, and then I was like sitting through acts, like 7-minute acts. And
7 minutes.
Yeah, it was 7 minutes. Like people were doing 7 minutes because it was like dancers and like musicians and like variety.
A real variety.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
then I go up and I was like, okay, guys, I'm gonna improvise a song. And the theme of the night was Riz. Like everybody, you don't have to do something with Riz, but like if you wanted like a little prompt for something, like.
Were there non-performing audience members?
I think people brought friends, like a little bit.
So
like
it sounds like a different kind of open mic than I'm used to.
Yeah, it's a very original vibe.
Yeah.
And like there's people who go all the time. Like I like it, but it is a specific commitment.
Yeah.
And so I decided to improvise a song after like 3.5 hours of like just sitting there. Mm-hmm. And so I did a song about charisma, and it was really bad. It was really bad.
Well, I guarantee it was not as bad as you feel it was.
No, and I watched the video. You're totally right. I watched the video, and I was like, okay, well, at least like, you know, with music and comedy and dancing and like poetry and everything, like sometimes you really you can't even hear what the person is saying, or like they're really, really bad, or they're not engaging the audience.
Yeah.
Like, I always feel, this is cocky, but it's true. I always feel that, like, no matter what I do on stage, I'm going to be, like, in the top half or, like, the top 40% of people, just because I am a regular person who, like, can connect with the audience. And, like, when I go to open mic nights, there's people who, like, their whole thing is to be weird or cringe or, like, you know what I mean? And, like, you're not, that's great. And you're on a journey there.
Yeah.
But, like, for me in the audience, like, I am not connecting with what you're doing in this moment, you know?
Well, I think there's a difference between cockiness and knowing your strengths.
Yeah.
First off, because it's kind of, I don't know. We're, like, beat down. We're, like, told to, like, anything that we think is positive about ourselves is, like, us being cocky.
Yeah, true.
But it's such a gift to know what you're actually good at, and you, like, really need to cling to that when you're doing, like, performance.
Yeah, right.
Because it's really tough. I think that's, like, so admirable. Were you, during the hours that you were sitting there, were you, like, thinking of what you might sing, or did you just
stopped myself? I was like, I can't write it, because if I write it and then try to memorize it, that's harder.
Yeah.
In my opinion, because, like, I was thinking of things like, oh, I could say this, and then I was like, oh, maybe I should have a bridge where, like, the guy realizes he doesn't have like, and I was like, I can't be thinking of this. Like, I need to just go up and improvise it. And
I think that's, like, why open mics are so bad, is because like, open mics in New York is just comedians. There's no audience members typically, and so no one is splash,
oh no, I've spilled my water all
splash.
over. It's okay, it'll dry.
No one is listening. It's like not a real audience at all.
Yeah.
Everyone is thinking about,
it's not a real audience,
how their set was, how it's going to go.
Yeah.
They're punching up their own jokes in their head, or they're thinking, like, well, at least I'm better than this person.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm the same way. It's so hard to just be an audience member at an open mic. No one is. So it's a bad audience already.
Yeah. And it's hard to find places to perform, to practice, like, without just doing a show where it might get better and better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I feel like when I first started doing comedy, which was only a little over 2 years ago, I've always done, like, podcasts and, like, internet stuff and whatever, but actually going and doing, like, stand-up open mic nights and improv and whatever has been about 2 years. And in my first year, I was going to open mics, like, really all the time. Like, and I guess that's kind of how you have to get started. But then I feel like around the fall and winter and spring of this year, I started getting booked for shows, and just basically that was the practice.
Yeah.
Like,
well, congrats. That's, like, that's very cool. I think there's this rhetoric that to be a stand-up, you need to go to, like, 10 open mics a week, and you need to go to a gazillion. And there are a lot of very successful stand-up comedians that have done that. Yeah. But I also think that's not the only way. Yeah. And that's been, like, a very reassuring thought for me. Like, I remember Benny Feldman. I took a class with Benny Feldman, and they said something like that it was so much more important to them to, like, hone their writing. Yeah. And to have, like, really strong material and then take that to the mics, because it's true, like, you can become a better performer. Yeah. But I also think, like, because I do improv, I have a certain amount of confidence on stage. Yes. And so, like, the writing is what I need to work on. Oh yeah. So that, like, the fact that I don't go to that many open mics a week, even though I want to go to more, and I wish I had the energy for it. Yeah. Like, it's a little bit comforting, because it's like, I know I can still work on myself, and I don't just need to go to a zillion of them. So I was swiping through your Instagram earlier. You probably saw all my likes. Thank you. And I saw the video of you. You were improvising a song about. Do you remember what that was? What was it about again? AI. About AI. Yeah. And I thought it was so good. Like, you really came up with a lot of examples and references in real time. And I thought it was really impressive compared to what I did at the open mic on Tuesday. See, that's the problem, though. You immediately compare. I know, but, which, like, I do too. Yeah. And obviously you posted that one. So obviously, because, like, that was your best one. I felt good about it. Yeah. And that therein lies the meaning of social media. Yeah. But by the way, that was, like, so hard for me to post. That took so much courage for me to post. Genuinely, because I really struggle with posting things online. I've gone through, like, a couple phases where I'm like, I want to make, like, content, but it's really sad most of the time because you work really hard on things and then you don't get engagement, and then you throw something away and it gets engaged, which for me, getting a really good engagement is like 60 likes or something. I'm like, wow, which doesn't matter. That's still amazing to me.
Yeah.
And I think, although like living in New York, it's extra hard because you're comparing yourself to your community, and some people in your community are like a little famous now.
Yeah, the greatest of all time. Yeah. I do think you have a lot of funny videos though.
Thank you.
I went all the way back in your Instagram, all the way back to the first post.
Yeah, well, there's a lot archived.
I bet.
Yeah. I've ended up like archiving a lot of stuff from high school. Yeah. Which it's not like anything was bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just any time where I'm like, oh, someone that I'm like not good friends with could look at this now.
I know.
And that's like too vulnerable.
One time when I was just out of college and I moved to New York and I had a job and I was like, had all these coworkers and stuff. Mm-hmm. This girl came into work one day and she was like, oh my God, me and my friends found your YouTube from like high school. And like, she wasn't being mean, but I actually was like, oh, that's great. What's wrong? Like, and she was like, some of those videos are really like, she was like, some of those videos are really awkward or something like that. Like, she said something that like, I don't remember what she said, but that's how I took it. Record. And then I went home and I was like, let me like go back and look through these videos. And I realized like I had changed so much. Mm-hmm. Like, it was high school. I wasn't out of the closet in high school. Mm-hmm. And there would be just references to like hot girls and like just like little moments of awkwardness. And so I was like, okay, maybe it's time like I refresh this and like kind of go and change up what's on my YouTube. Forgot the password. So then for like years and years, and they had done like some kind of transition where it went to Google, remember? And so I needed like to know a Google email, but I had never like transitioned it correctly. So years and years went by and I didn't remember the password or know how to log in. And then one day the Lord up above popped the password into my head and I logged in and put stuff on private.
And what was the password?
I can't tell you the
You didn't change it?
Well, I didn't change it. I don't think I changed it.
You gotta be changing. You gotta get a password manager. I'm a huge advocate of password managers.
This is our ads for
Yeah, I use LastPass. I think I pay like $60 a year.
Oh yeah,
and it's so worth it. It makes a crazy password for every website. Yeah.
I don't even remember what the password was. No, I forgot it. But no, it's like it's. I'm trying. I think it was like a variation of some password that I have. Obviously, we should stop talking about this.
Fine. My story with that is that I had.
Oh, did you get hacked?
No, but I made a Twitter account in high school that was for Soft Soap, the brand Soft Soap, Suave brand Soft Soap. And the reason I did it was totally like a knockoff of. I remember hearing like Kyle Kinane had made a Twitter account for Pace Picante Salsa, and he was, this has now like become a thing, but then he would do like Pace Picante was like having a meltdown and like being bad on Twitter, which is now, like corporations now are so they want to be a person on the internet. Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to do that for Soft Soap. Oh my God. But then I like just followed people from my high school and I like just interacted with them. Like,
wait, did they know it was you?
I don't think anyone knew like no one was paying attention to it.
People just thought Soft Soap was interacting with them.
They probably knew. If you looked at it, you'd be like, this is someone who goes to this high school. But I would also just like search for the word soap and like reply to those people. Wow. But I wish that I had access to that Twitter account because I think.
Does it still exist?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I like made an email for it. Yeah. Like I made a Soft Soap email.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I don't have access to that. I don't have any of that.
So that's a weird thing. So you were making, in high school, like brand accounts on Twitter. Like just secretly. That one. Did you tell anybody?
Yes. I told my best friend. Yeah. I thought it was so funny.
It is funny.
Yeah.
It is funny.
I know that's kind of
still like, do it.
I wish I could log in now and like make Soft Soap content.
And is it, I guess you don't remember what the email was?
No, but probably something like Soft Soap at Hotmail.
Yeah.
Yahoo.
Yeah. 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 I feel like God's going to come to you and put that password
about
in your
time.
head. Yeah, because I think that it would be great if, like, under Elon's x.com, if you were just like soap, you know?
Oh, that's true. I don't have an X account
Elon.
now.
Yeah.
I haven't had like a personal Twitter account in a long time.
Yeah. You just have the soap one.
Yeah, but I can't access it.
Okay, we have to figure this out.
And plus now I've revealed publicly that it's me.
That's true. Is this the exclusive?
Yeah, this is an exclusive.
Wow.
Yep.
That's pretty crazy. What else did you do in high school? Were you involved in anything? Like, were you...
I was in band.
What did you play?
I played the French horn.
Wow.
And during marching season, I played the mellophone, which is
I don't even know what that is.
It's a marching French horn.
Okay.
So it has a similar sound, and it looks kind of like a trumpet, but with a bigger bell.
Okay.
I was really good at it.
I bet.
It was definitely one of those things that I was like, I don't have to practice, and I'm good at French horn.
Oh.
But the truth of it was, there were only ever like 4 French horns max in the band, so like being first chair was not that impressive.
Oh.
And one year I was the only French horn, and so like at band camp we would go off and have sectional practice, so I would just get to like go off by myself, didn't practice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was in band. I didn't do theater in high school.
Me neither. You're like the first person on this podcast who didn't do theater
yeah,
in
because
high school.
it's everyone we hang out with now is like a theater person.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of theater friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I was more in like, I had a lot of band friends. I had theater friends. I think my closest friends were kind of like the smart people.
Yeah.
And I was not that I was not smart, but I was certainly not in like the top of my class, especially at the end when it really mattered.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, but I like to think that I got along with most people. I was just very shy.
Yeah, okay. Would people describe you that way? You think?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, you know what, like my whole life I've always thought I'm very shy, and so I assume everyone thinks that and knows that about me, but I've had a lot of people tell me that they find me like intimidating because of that, and I'm like, because I'm like reserved. And I'm like, that's so devastating to hear because I'm actually so desperate to like talk to them. Yeah, so that's something in the past like few years I've been like trying to work on,
not being intimidating.
Yeah, which
that's
is
hard.
I've never done it. Like sometimes I do it on purpose,
right?
But not in a normal situation.
I have had friends throughout my life that have been called intimidating.
Yeah,
and I just think it's so unfair, like because you're not. It could just be like someone's first impression or like someone's like lack of ability to get to know you, and they just like put you, she's intimidating.
I mean, I do the same thing with people a lot of times, like especially in stand-up, like, you know, stand-up versus improv, but improv is such a communal community. Improv is like everyone is together, everyone's for each other, and there certainly are cliques. But because of the literal nature of like what improv is, people are working together and like working to get to know each other.
Yeah.
And stand-up, I'm just like petrified of it. I think everyone is like so much cooler than me.
Oh, really?
It always feels, yes. Okay. It always feels like everyone is friends.
Yeah.
And I will never like be in their friend group.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sure there are some people that are like, I don't want to be friends with her. But I think most people are like, she just doesn't talk.
Okay. But what about when you get on stage? What do you talk about on stage mostly? With stand-up?
All kinds of things. Yeah. I go through phases of like whether I want to talk about personal things or whether I just want to talk about silly
society.
Yeah. Yeah, I talk a lot about society.
Yeah, like the next Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah. I have a lot of like, you know, Christianity jokes. Yeah. I grew up Christian.
Yeah.
I have a lot of like queer jokes or a lot of complaints about being a woman.
Right. Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
And here's my question. What's it like to be a woman in comedy these days?
Oh my God. These days more than ever. It's actually getting worse and worse every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I've never been asked that.
I'm so happy to be here first.
I do think like that's such a cliche.
Yeah.
But
it
is like, it's real, and, like, doing improv more than stand-up, I think there have been a lot of times where I'm like, I know that if I did some things that like men do in improv, it would not get a laugh in the same way.
Yeah.
And that's been like very sad to realize, especially like physical things, because people want to look at women. Like, I feel like people either classify women in their head as sort of like hot or kind of goofy. And like, so if you are like, it takes like a shift in people's brains where they're just like, oh, she's like goofy and she's using her body to be goofy and gross.
Yeah.
Whereas guys, I think, can more like fluidly go between like looking silly or being cool.
And some people think it is hot when they use their body to be goofy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so do I.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
no, I actually really, I can really see what you're saying. And like, I feel like the reason I kind of ask it with like little tongue in cheek or whatever is because I've heard so many like really famous like women comedians like get annoyed about that question because they get it asked in such an ignorant way all the time,
and it feels like such a dated question, but the truth is
actually not, it's actually
still
kind of
very
not
relevant. I get why you don't want to talk about it, because it's like when it's your profession, you don't always want to be asked like, what's it like to be a woman?
Well, and I do think there's people perceive women just totally differently in stand-up and in improv, I think. Like, and I one time I heard like Hannah Berner, you know her?
Mm-hmm.
She was, I think it was her, and she was just talking about like women in stand-up specifically, and like how when you're getting started, it's not that fun because you're just in rooms full of guys who are making sexist jokes.
Yep.
And you have, like, in order to get to, like, Hannah Berner's level, you have to endure so much of that.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, you can go to, like, women mics and queer mics, like, whatever. But, like, at the end of the day, like, so much of what you're doing is sitting in a room and being berated with, like, sexist and stupid jokes at open mic nights.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to multiple mics where I'm the only woman or non-cis man in the room, and I went to one in particular where I was like, how I was reacting was being commented on, like they were like, oh, she's not laughing, and it's like, well, now there's like a spotlight on me. And by the way, I'm like a very shy audience member. When I'm at shows, I am petrified of being called out. Like, I do not want to be acknowledged. But it's hard, and I do now go to like pretty strictly like Brooklyn mics that are more inclusive, and whether it's a queer mic or a women mic, or just there are just some mics that like have a certain vibe, or they have like rules up top where they're like, no blah blah blah, anything hateful, anything obviously hateful. And it is so much easier, and there's a part of me that's like, I wish I could go to any room and do well in any room, but I don't need that. Like, I don't believe anymore that a comedian needs to be able to perform in front of everyone and kill. And some people can do that. I can't. And I don't think, like, that's not my goal.
That's not your goal. I in a very similar but also different way, like, I have had my own relationship and, like, struggle with, like, do I want to basically only talk about being gay on stage? And, like, at first you hear people say, like, well, you need to be able to appeal to mass audiences. So, like, you need to be funny to, like, a straight person, you know, like, whatever. And first of all, I think I am funny to straight people. Like, I think that, like, my talking about being gay is far more universal than I think I used to think it was. I think everybody has a journey of, like, coming out and being who they are and finding love. I think it's, like, pretty universal, actually. And
I've seen you kill with straight people. I have seen you slaughter in front
and
of
I actually
people.
A lot of times the people who come up to me that are the most impressed and enthusiastic about my stuff is, like, straight guys, and they're just like,
what's with that?
I think
are they, like, shocked?
I think what it is that they are also imprisoned by the patriarchy. And they have just as many pressures to not be gay as I did growing up. And even though they aren't gay and they can just be like, well, I'm not gay, so that's that. They still get called gay. They still get ridiculed when they put their hand a certain way or talk a certain way or cry or whatever. And I think that I've always thought this since the second I came out, I actually started connecting with straight guys more because before I came out, I didn't ever have that many straight guy friends or anything. The second I came out, I think I was like authentically like sticking it to the man. Like I literally was like, oh, I don't care if you call me gay, because I actually am gay, and that's just a thing that I am. And I really feel like when I came out and they just started like realizing that I was the rejection that they almost wish they could be. And it just turned into this whole thing where like I've realized that my comedy is not only about being gay, but it's about like commenting on masculinity and like the boundaries and like all of that with masculinity. It's like been a really interesting journey for me.
Yeah. I think like queer comedy and gay comedy too, it just allows people to like have that conversation that they just don't naturally about masculinity, but everyone wants to. Yeah, I think of course it's so much easier to connect with people when you're authentic. Yeah
I mean, I was on the train on Wednesday, I think, to go to a Yankees game, and there were these guys, and these like straight guys on the train. I ended up talking to them. They were 25. They like worked at like Morgan Stanley, like finance guys, and like to me they were like the straightest guys out there, you know, just like going to a Yankees game wearing their baseball outfits and like just like talking about like they were talking
straight
about,
as they come.
Yeah, like talking about in like credit cards and like finance and like
credit cards are so strange. As a queer person, I strictly use a debit card. Yeah. Because I can't get into anything fishy. Yeah. I need to see where my money is.
I know. Don't use credit cards if you're gay. But they were talking about like what car. They were specifically talking about like they had this work benefit at like Morgan Stanley, like credit card
and, like, playing the
that
points
like gets the points. And one guy, I guess he was making a plan to like buy an engagement ring for his girlfriend, and like. So they were talking about like he was like, I want to open a credit card so I can get like points and whatever. And anyway, I was kind of eavesdropping, and like they were next to me, and then they like complimented my shirt, and we started talking, and they ended up being like really, really nice and like just complimenting me, and like we were talking about what they did for work and what I did for work and like whatever, and I was telling them about my photo booth business that I have, I
didn't know that. Cool.
That I have a photo booth business where I like go out to parties and like set up my photo booth, and like people pay me to like do the photo booth, and they were like really into that, and like one of them was like, oh, maybe we should use you for the wedding when we get engaged or whatever. And it just ended up being this like extremely like non-toxic experience that I think like high school me would be really shocked to see, that like 32-year-old me is like connecting with straight guys that way. Anyway, it was just a really funny experience, because I don't always expect that from straight guys, but then they do kind of find themselves in my freedom with my masculinity. You know?
Something that frightened me in there is the idea of having to buy an engagement ring. That like scares me so much, and I feel so bad that people that feel like tied to that, because it's so expensive. And the whole like idea that it has to be X months of your salary or whatever, which by the way, not everyone's making the same salary.
I can't even do like 20% of my one paycheck.
That's something where I like I feel bad for men a little bit.
Well, it is an interesting,
it's like a weird expectation.
This episode of Life in Bold is brought to you by having pictures of yourself on your own refrigerator. This is something that I do. It's a practice that I carry with me in my own journey, and it's something that I highly recommend you do as well. So what you can do is, go through your phone and figure out your best pictures, your hottest, your most sexy, your most compelling pictures, and go get those printed out. CVS, you can just go to get those. I think they're like 7 or 9 cents per print, 4x6, and then get some tape and put those things right on your refrigerator. When guests come over, like Lauren is over right now looking at those pictures, and it just gives people something to do while you're kind of minding your own business. Anyway, I hope you have a great day, and here's Lauren.
This episode of Life in Bold is brought to you by my show, Boldly the Show, which sort of aligns with the themes of this podcast, which is a monthly variety show in New York City. And it is also brought to you by eating cheese sticks that are Colby Jack and not mozzarella. You're not a child anymore, I'm assuming. Stop eating mozzarella. Stop pulling your cheese stick like you're peeling a little hangnail and eat an adult cheese stick with your mouth, chomp, 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 of Colby Jack. Okay, back to the show.
That was really good. Okay, retraction. I have just been told by Lauren that it's atrocious that I tape them to the refrigerator and I should use magnets or get the photos printed out as magnets. Anyway, back to the show. What do you think about short men?
You know, some of my closest friends are short men.
Yeah, right. Because I recently saw a video on TikTok where it was like a dating game show, and it was like all these beautiful women and this like hot guy, and he just was short.
Yeah.
And they all turned him down because he was too short. But like he was a great guy, and like had like all these like great details about him, and they were all like, "Yeah, you're amazing," but like I just can't do it. I can't do it, and they're being mean.
Oh no. I hate that.
I know.
I think truly, and I can't speak for everyone, but I bet this is the case.
Can't?
I can't.
Yeah.
I wish I could.
Yeah, that would be
But
great.
I bet this is the case not just for me, which is that insecurity with like dating a short man for me has nothing to do with him and everything to do with how I feel about my body.
Totally.
Especially as a tall woman.
Yeah.
Like, because I have been told that I need to feel tiny and I need to I need to be able to wear his clothes.
Yeah.
And, you know, or like during sex, I want to feel like they're so tiny.
Yeah.
It's never to do with the other person, which sucks for men.
Yeah.
And I think that they have those, like, there are guys that have the same feelings about women. Like, they're stressed to be with a taller or bigger woman because they feel like they have to be bigger. Yeah. Like, I truly think, sadly, everyone is just thinking about themselves. Yeah. At the end of the day. Like, however, I do feel the suffering that short men go through does lead a lot of them to be very funny.
Yes.
You know, a la George Costanza.
Of course. Yeah.
So I appreciate that in them. Yeah. Yeah. The funniest man I know in Detroit, Devin Jenkins. He's a short king. Yeah. I don't think that has anything to do with why he's funny, but he's comfortable with it. Yeah. Yeah. And it can be funny. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a really funny thing. Like, I mean, it's really not funny. Like,
I think, it's actually very serious.
It's actually very serious, and we should be serious about it. Because it's like, I have a friend who's like, talks about how like, basically short men are like the final straw, or like the final group of people that it's like okay to make fun of.
Oh yeah.
You know?
What about
But like she's not saying it's okay, but she's like complaining that like why do we think it's she's not saying like, oh great, like we can make fun of short men. But like she's like
that's
why,
how
why
I took
is
it,
that
totally.
why yeah.
Finally we have someone left.
Yeah. No, but if I feel like she's like, why is that still okay? Like how I do think it's in a lot of like straight like man and women relationships.
Yeah, because we don't feel comfortable making fun of women in the same way. Yeah. Because we perceive women to be like so much more like they can't take it.
Yeah, like
if you bully them like that.
Yeah, bullying. It's bullying.
Yeah.
And I think as a gay man, I'm totally cool with dating someone that's taller or shorter than me. Yeah. But I feel similarly about my own body. I feel like I want to be smaller. But I also like want to be bigger.
Oh.
You know, like I feel like I want to be, you know what it is strong. I want to be like really strong.
Yes.
Like I want to feel that I'm fit and like, you know, looking really good.
Yeah. I want to feel strong so bad. Yeah. I feel so weak.
No.
But I have so much stress about like being so big. And I'm constantly doing the thing of like when I see another tall woman and I think to myself like, oh, she's tall. And then I'm like, wait, am I that height? Is that how my body looks? It's like the sad, like, I feel like I don't have a good perception of my body. And I'm always thinking like, is that what I look like? Is that what I look like?
There's a podcast host who I think he would call himself fat, and I would also call him fat, and I would call myself fat at certain times of the day. And he was wearing a shirt that I recently ordered on ASOS, and it was a shirt that ended up being too big for me, but it was the biggest size that they had. And so, but it wasn't way too big for me. It was just like too big, and I was going to return it and get the next size down. But he was wearing it, and I was like, I wonder what size shirt.
I was wondering where you were going with this.
I was like, what did he order the biggest size, and was it too big for him, or did he go down? I'm like, because he is fat.
And you're trying to think like, where am I in that spectrum?
Yeah,
totally.
And it's weird to like, even especially online, it's hard because you just don't know if someone got something tailored, or you don't know like if they have a stylist. Like, I'm watching his podcast on YouTube. He might have a stylist, you know?
Yes.
I hope that's what people think about this podcast.
Yes, we've been styled. Yeah. I think it's wild how much tailoring and fit and structure go into how someone's body looks.
Yeah.
And I think too with like, you know, like being a fat person or being overweight, there are like so many rules that you're sort of fed about like you need to wear things that like as a girl at least like that emphasize your waist and your hips so that it's clear that you have a nice shape.
Yeah.
And you know, so you're sellable. And someone can buy you and make you their little wife.
Yeah.
Or like you can't wear anything too tight, or it's like tight on bottom and loose on top, tight on top and loose on. It's like it doesn't matter.
It's insane.
And now there's this trend of like I'm loving that things are trending really loose right now, and like the 90s, everything oversized.
Back. Yeah.
But I'm still, even when I think like I wore an outfit the other day and I was like, this looks really cool, but it was still scary for me because it was like baggy pants and baggy shirt.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know this makes me look like quote unquote bigger.
Yeah, right.
But it looks cool.
Yeah.
And also it's the same body.
Right.
Yeah. They're bodies are crazy.
Bodies be crazy.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't know. It's a lot to think about and it's a lot to take in. And when you have something, and everybody does have something that like makes their body different, it's really hard to feel like you're shopping for the right stuff and that you are finding the right stuff that makes you look the best and like makes you feel comfortable and confident, and then also makes like people think you're sexy. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Which
like,
I wish like wasn't a factor.
Yeah.
But it is.
It so is.
Yeah.
Man, clothing. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Should that be my my tagline on this podcast?
That's
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
You know what's bold is clothing.
Yeah.
Being crazy.
It is bold though.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned growing up Christian. I'm curious about your experience. Did you go to church all the time? Like what were your parents
obsessed
into?
with church.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad's a pastor. My mom worked at the church.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time there, like outside of church hours.
Yeah.
Clocked in a lot of time at the church, hanging out.
Yeah.
It was my whole like social circle until like middle school.
Yeah.
Yes. So definitely had a lot of those rules and that shame.
Yeah.
I do give my parents a lot of credit, I think, for being very open, and also I've seen them like evolve their ways of thinking on a lot of topics, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
They're still Christian. But the fact that they've allowed their like views to change on certain things is inspiring to me, and I don't think that everyone's like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up in the church. Sadly not there now. But
why sadly not there now?
I mean, I just don't. There's a part of me that like wishes I was like Christian, because it's the same part of me that like really wants to believe in some spiritual things. Yeah. And I just don't, but I totally get. I think there's like such comfort in believing that there's something more. Yeah. And I wish I had it.
Did you believe in more as a kid, and like were you bought into Christianity and afterlife stuff and like higher power stuff?
Totally. And even then I was I started like falling out of it kind of in middle school. Okay. Or like puberty age, but I was so desperate to be good. Yeah. Like I'm someone who wants to be good badly. Yeah. And so I like was always rededicating my life to Christ. Like I was always just trying to make sure like God knew that I was like still in.
Yeah.
Still a believer, because I really needed to go to heaven.
Yeah, right.
I remember like my dream as a kid though was to like, okay, grow up Christian. And then to fall out of faith.
And then right before you die.
Close. Yeah. To fall out of faith and sort of have like a party era and get to have sex.
Yeah.
Out of wedlock.
Yeah.
And then to fall in love with a Christian man.
Yeah.
Who I would get married to and save so that I could die and go to heaven. Yeah. But I really wanted to have that like a rumspringa basically. Yeah. Like a party era.
I love that.
Even as a child, because I was like, I can't do this my whole life.
Yeah.
But I do need to be in good standings when I die.
Yeah, that's so funny. I think that's funny that we have those thoughts as kids of like, because I remember having, I was definitely one of the kids that was like going to church.
Yeah.
And then like I kind of was like
flavor?
Christian church, like I don't even know. I think my family was like Baptist church.
Oh, okay.
But like not that intense. I don't think it was like.
What's the music like? Are there drums?
No drums.
Okay. See, I was non-denominational, so there were drums, there was guitar, electric guitar, bass, a saxophone sometimes.
No, only piano. And this woman could play the piano so well.
Well, of course. Those are some of the best musicians we have.
Yeah, I know.
The organist.
I know. So she'd play the piano, we would sing. There would be like a screen projector, with the words.
Sure.
And then but my family would only go like every like 6 months.
Oh, okay.
And like my dad would just decide Sunday morning when I'm sleeping in that we're going to church.
What do you think that was?
Well, I just don't think we were that committed, but I think my dad thought it was good to go to church.
But what do you think like triggered him to?
I think it was just like family bonding.
It's been long enough. Like,
yeah, we haven't gone. Let's go check in on the church. Like my dad is very like adventurous with like experiences and like just wants to like go out and do stuff.
Yeah.
And like I think sometimes he was like, oh, we have no little league game today, like we have no soccer game today,
we need an experience,
let's go to church.
I have a friend who says that he's addicted to new experiences. And I wonder if your dad is similar.
Yeah,
it's a
maybe
really
he
dangerous
is.
Addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we would go to church, and then I remember around like 5th, 6th grade, I was like, I don't really think I'm in this. Like I don't think that I'm really a Christian, but we would go to church.
This isn't for me, but
this isn't for me, but like
so
I will
be.
Because of my need to be good, I will go along with this and like go to church. But I remember in like 6th or 7th grade, I definitely had the thought of like, I'm just gonna like not deal with this, and then like right when I'm about to die, I'll pray and like accept God into my heart. Isn't that
God? Yeah, that's what we wanted. And I do think, looking back, even though I was an extremely shy child, there was a big part of church that for me was performance. Yeah. And because my dad's the pastor.
Your dad was the boss.
Yes. And I was very like, I felt always like I was being watched. So however I was always performing.
Watched by your dad or by God?
By everyone.
Yeah.
Like I felt like a celebrity.
Yeah, yes.
Like everyone knew who I was. It was a fairly big church in town.
Yeah.
So like, we would go to Walmart and get recognized.
That's like my mom and being a teacher. My mom was a teacher, and it was like that.
Yeah. And I would have
Walmart.
I really wanted people to think that I was like nuanced. I remember I would like lead motions in for children's church, you know what I mean, where we have like a little dance that goes with the song. And so it would be like the person performing, and then there would be a couple children that were on worship team, we would call it, and we would do like different motions and lead everyone in the dance. And I would do this thing a lot where I would try to I would have like a journey during the worship session. Yeah. So for one song, I would try to look like really sad and far away. And what I wanted were the adults to be like, Lauren's really going through something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And then I would sort of have like a revelation during one song where it was like I was being saved. And I wanted the adults to be thinking, okay, Lauren's back on the right track.
Yes.
Like it was so performative.
Yeah. Like a little psychotic.
Yes. And it was so for the adults. I heard Hannah Lieberman is a comedian that I saw for the first time recently. Really funny. Yeah. And she said something like when she was a kid, she was a pick-me for adults. Yeah. And that was so me. Yeah. I was like, of course I wanted kids to like me, but that was really not my concern. Yeah. I wanted the adults to see me and like me and go, like, she's one of us. Yeah. She's a kid, but she's actually really smart and like us. I grew up around like All my siblings are older than me.
Okay.
I'm the youngest. But also, there's like, there's a lot of gap.
All my siblings are older than me.
Yeah.
It's such a funny way to say
Something unique about me.
I'm the youngest.
I'm the youngest. But that's how it felt because, like...
Yeah. Are they much older?
Yes. Like, my oldest brother is 16 years older than me. And so I always felt like I just had a lot of adults around me, and I really wanted to be one of them.
Yeah.
I did not want to be at the children's table ever.
Yeah.
They were so beneath me.
Yeah.
I wanted
That's why
to
you're
be...
intimidating.
Maybe.
All the kids were intimidated.
I know, but like now I'm an adult and I'm not sure who to identify with.
Oh, yeah. Like, do you identify... How old are you?
28.
28. So, like, do you identify with all the, like, 48-year-olds now?
No.
Do you identify
But I don't know who I identify with because you know
Yeah.
what? Like, I was at a show recently and I thought, I get such a complex about like being too old now. And I was like, everyone at this show is like Gen Z.
Yeah.
And they're like so cool and young. And then the hosts literally said their birth date is like part of a bit. And they were 6 months younger than me. Oh. And in my head, I was like, they're like cool 22-year-old girls.
Yeah.
They are my age.
Yeah.
I just like...
So you're walking around, because I'll tell you, when I turned 30, so I'm 32.
Yeah.
When I turned 30, instantly I thought everybody's my age.
You're almost Jesus.
Yeah.
Be careful.
I'm going to be careful. I'm going to be really careful.
Watch and listen for who's talking behind your back.
Yeah. No one's there right now.
Not right now.
Yeah. But like, I feel like everybody's my age now. Like, you being 28 is that you're my age. Like, I'm like...
That's what I want so bad. Like, one of my closest friends is... she's 26 or 27.
Yeah.
But I have like a weird thing in my head where I'm like, she's so much younger than me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's,
I think that ends
I like
when you're 30.
want it. Okay. Good.
Yeah. Cause when I was in my 20s, somebody could be 27 and I'm 29. And like, that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Now, like when I meet anybody that's like 25 or older or like 45 and younger, like I'm so like, I think everybody's my age.
I want that.
Yeah.
Really
you'll have
bad.
that.
Okay. Are you dating?
Oh, that's a good place to
and
go.
like, what's your age range for dating?
Oh, dating.
Yeah.
My age range. So I recently had some. Okay, so I basically probably want to date someone that's the same age as me. I think that would be the most like fulfilling. I think younger, like if they're more mature, and like older if they're like, I guess. But I still want them to be mature. But like, I don't know. I haven't dated a lot of people that are like super outside of my own age range, but I recently, since I've had this mindset where everybody's my age, I find myself like talking to somebody and like being interested in them, and they're 25
and finding out they're younger.
And I'm like, okay, well, and then I've heard people talk about like it's different. What's like acceptable for your age range is like different for like a long-term relationship versus like just flirting and hooking up and stuff. And I'm like, is that because like for me, I'm really only flirting and hooking up with somebody if I want it to be a long-term relationship.
Yeah, beautiful.
So like, I just don't know how that applies to me. But I think ultimately, to answer your question, I think I really would like someone like maybe within 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, but I can't be that specific. That feels really specific to me.
It's really ultimately your choice. And
yeah. And their choice.
Yes. I better be. I make a lot of judgments, honestly, about like age differences. Yeah. And it's because of like, I put that on myself. Like, if I see someone's attractive and then I find out they're 23, I'm immediately like, you're disgusting pervert. That is a child. Like, I will not be attracted to someone who's like, even 24. I'm like,
I know.
But of course there are hot people who are like 24. But if I like have a crush on one, I'm like, that is disgusting, Lauren. Yeah. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, me too.
They're way younger than you.
Yeah. I feel that too. I totally agree with you. Yeah. Like I remember that I went to a bar for some party thing, and I was talking to this guy, and like, first of all, also I never know if someone is into guys at all, so I've learned to just ask.
Oh, like, okay. How do you ask? Because this is like good. Yeah, it's a good tip.
Well, I feel like for my entire adult life since I've come out, I have had trouble knowing who's gay, and now I say like who's into guys, because people could be like not gay and they're into guys, you know. So now I say into guys, but I'll like flirt with them, or at least I think I'm flirting with them. And then it turns out that they're straight, and like I've gone so far in my mind on like how we're getting married and whatever. And so now like I'll just weave it into the conversation, and it's kind of a weird way of saying it, but I think it works really well. Is like I'll bring up something sometimes, like I'll say, oh yeah, my brother does that, he's straight, and then I'll be like, are you
yeah,
I'll say
yeah, segue.
Yeah, I'll say are you queer at all? And I'll say queer at all, and I think it's just a good, because then they can be like no, or they could be like a little bit, or they could be like yeah, I am, I'm gay. And so I'll say like yeah, I'll just like weave it into a conversation.
It's really tough.
Yeah,
I think that I also like to, depending on like who I'm talking to.
Yeah,
I feel like I like to establish that I'm queer at a certain point.
Yeah,
not just or like solely to flirt with someone, but sometimes it's like I want them to like know me.
Yeah,
so I'll be like I'll talk about going on a date with a girl or something.
Yeah,
but I never do that with girls. I kind of think every girl is straight.
Yeah, right.
And it's terrifying to think that they might be otherwise. Yeah, so it's really
you're
like
in a relationship with a man.
Yes.
Yeah. And so how
famously.
Yeah. And how long have you guys been together?
6 years.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So and then, but are you in a type of relationship where you're like still flirting with other people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. And so but does it
Thanks.
come up? Does it come up mostly with men though?
Yeah, because it's so much easier.
So much easier.
Because that's how my brain. I'm just so scared of women. Every girl I talk to, especially like bi girls or queer girls, whatever.
Yeah.
I think
oh my gosh.
we all have the. Oh no.
It's just water.
Okay. Actually, not that much came out, but it looks like a dramatic amount.
Yeah. I've been so irresponsible
like
with this water.
Well, it's your
Well,
couch.
We're almost done, so let's just keep going.
I stand up and there's a huge puddle. Okay, you open the floodgates.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm so scared of girls.
Gosh. Yeah. Have you dated a girl before?
Only a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think
have not really dated a girl either.
Yeah. It's like so hard. I get it.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny about women is that. You know what's funny about women?
Yeah. Not much.
No, I just think I'm happy that I'm a gay man, and that I just have to deal with like a man and a man's body.
Yeah.
Because the way that women, and I guess like women who are having sex with men, talk about how unsuccessful men are at sex.
Unsuccessful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just makes it seem like it would be so complicated to do.
You know, the problem is I think that a lot of straight men have a totally different measure of success in sex also. Like, which is... I think everyone needs to be talking so much more.
In sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to be having so much more conversation. Yeah. And I do think in queer sex there's like inherently more conversation going on because we haven't seen as much of it. You're not like all you've ever seen in a movie is like a man and a woman. And then you see them kiss and then like a curtain sort of blowing. Yeah. And then you're like, all right.
Always blowing.
There's no conversation. Yeah. They're on the same page.
And it's
then
the first time all the time.
And they come, sorry, I say come like 1,000 times a day and I'm like so scared to say it. They come at the same time, which is like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that never happens. Yeah. That's like so rare.
Right.
It happens in every movie. That's every if you movie. See that. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be an R-rated film. Yeah. If you see that. Yeah. But yeah, we like don't know what queer sex looks like. Yeah. We're starting to see some of it. Right. And it's in porn.
I was watching, I watched Red, White, and Royal Blue. Have you ever seen that?
No, but I'm familiar.
So there's a sex scene where they have sex for the first time.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what is this scene? Like, it just is so smooth and like
That's so straight.
So Red, White, and Royal Blue is like a prince in London falls in love with like a president's son in America.
Is that a book?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a book and now a movie.
Okay.
And it's just funny because like watching them hook up for the first time or whatever.
It was like too easy.
It's so romantic and easy and like feels so good.
But you know what, like on the one hand where I'm like arguing for more communication in real life, I think that we kind of need that we still need like more queer rom-coms where everything is just perfect.
Yeah, right.
So on the one hand, I like kind of appreciate that, but it's like so crazy to watch. It's just a
funny thing.
You're like, what is this?
With like the camera cuts and all of a sudden they're just loving everything. Like it's just a funny like and like the blanket over them and like it's gold and I'm like,
a gold blanket? What's the material?
I think like a satin gold blanket. Might just be
cold.
making this up. I know
that's making me cold.
But
don't
you think that there's always a blanket? I don't know. There's always like a blanket.
There's
in a sex...
always a blanket. Well, there's always a little sheet, and then she stands up and she wraps the sheet and she goes to the bathroom. And I'm like, you guys did have sex.
They both have a top sheet. Like there's two top
sheets. I've never thought about that.
Me neither.
You're so right.
Why do they both
have How many top sheets are in the bed? Wait.
That's so funny. That's so true.
Yeah, he's got a top sheet and it's like just here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
She's got a top sheet and she's wearing it elegantly to the bathroom, even though we've seen it all.
Yeah.
Each other.
Yeah, right. It's so frustrating.
Yeah. What we need in films is raw, real sex on camera.
Yeah.
And it should be at least half the movie. It needs to be in real time.
Yeah.
There needs to be a full conversation.
Yeah. And then there needs to be like the next morning where you're like, can you please leave?
Yes.
Not like a classic.
Not like we go and have a bagel and spend the day together.
Where they both just somehow have good breath in the morning.
Yeah. Or where you're like, you can, just leave whenever you want. I have to go to work. But you can, it's like,
what?
This person's going to stay in your apartment?
Yeah. I should write a song about the sheets.
Yes. Write a song about the two top sheets.
Or at least make a meme.
Be a funny sketch.
Yeah.
Is like the morning after, and then they're kind of like fighting over the top sheet for decency.
Yeah.
There's just one top sheet on the bed, and she's like, well, I have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. And he's like, well, I have to cover my dick.
And he's like, yeah, I'm going to lay here, but I need something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's I wonder, I'm going to Google that later. Like, is that already a thing? Like, because they always have top sheet, like
too many top sheets and not enough blankets. Like a real bed, in my opinion, has too many random blankets.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just speaking about my own bed, but nothing's cohesive.
Yeah.
I don't have two pristine top sheets. I also think like there's too much. I have met some people romantically.
Yeah.
I would say who do not believe in top sheets. And I do think it's a man thing.
Yeah.
And they think that a duvet is a top sheet.
Yeah.
And it's simply not. It's
not
realistic in every movie for them to just have
a top sheet.
A full
two top sheets.
Set of sheets.
Yeah.
Because I know there are people out there who are just raw dogging a quilt. And thinking that's a sheet.
Yeah.
And it never gets washed.
People don't wash their sheets.
It's
you know
disgusting.
what I learned about sheets and washing sheets in my late 20s? Because I will say, I feel that I used to wash my sheets because it was clean. Like, to do it is hygienic.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized...
something changed?
Yes, something changed.
Now I do it because it's fun for me.
No, I realized that when I change my whole bed and, like, the sheets are washed and everything... the bed is so much more comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think that
it's
clicked
like fun
until
to get
I was
into.
like 30. Yeah. Like I'm like taking everything off the bed, like changing everything. And like then I get back in bed and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
This is really nice.
Very lucky to have a partner who makes the bed. And is not his natural inclination. He does it because I like it. And it's
a love language.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very sweet. And it's just like so luxurious to get into a made bed. And I'm also I never made my bed every day, but when you do it, it's nice. Really nice.
Yeah. I feel like I also, in my apartment, I get in and out of bed so much.
Yeah.
Because like, where else am I going to go?
It's a surface.
Yeah.
Same.
And yeah, I love my bed.
I know there are things that are like, when they're talking about how to have healthy sleep, you'll hear like doctors or influencers. I don't listen to doctors.
Doctors are influencers.
Yeah. The people I listen to.
Yeah.
And they're like, the bed is only for sex and sleep. And it's like, well, clearly you have a house. Because I have an apartment and there are two surfaces to sit on.
Yeah.
And the bed is pretty appealing.
Yeah. Right.
So you're speaking from your luxury is showing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's privilege.
The bed is for many things.
Yeah.
It's for having a snack.
Yeah.
It's for talking on the phone.
I don't even have anything
It's
to say
another room.
This is so funny because it's true.
Yeah.
It's for having 2 top sheets. I'm going to like double up on top sheets. Because, like, what if I have someone come over?
You have a guest. Yeah. And
they need a top sheet.
And they need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's going to be really embarrassing.
Yeah, if I don't have a second top sheet.
No. You should have a top sheet and then have it, like, be embroidered, like, for the special someone.
Yeah. Yeah, like something that's, like, really sentimental.
It has their name on it, and you had it embroidered while they were sleeping, and they wake up, and they're like...
I love you.
Oh. Yeah.
They would fall for me if I did that.
I've never had anything embroidered with my name.
Really?
Actually, that was a lie. I did get myself a robe that has...
You got it for yourself. But
well, I got one for my partner, and then I was like, I sort of need one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am a big embroidery person.
Yeah.
I'm like always, like, I think my grandmother growing up, she made a lot of like clothes for us.
Yeah.
And...
Again, an amazing gift.
Yeah. And she would put our names on it. And that was like the big signature, you know, like we had our names on our clothes. And
my family's Christmas stockings were made by our neighbor when I was growing up, who was sort of like a grandma.
Yeah, right.
And they all have our names on them.
That's nice. I have that from my grandmother who did.
All right, so it's not
she's
special.
my real grandmother.
Okay. Yeah, well, sure. My real grandmother wasn't so crafty. Okay, she had different skills.
Yeah, she.
Okay.
Like what?
Pinochle.
Yeah, being what?
Pinochle.
Oh, my grandma plays pinochle.
Well, yeah,
Yeah. Is that unique to our 2 grandmothers?
I think only our grandmothers.
They probably play together.
Pinochle. Yeah, and they're doing the knocks.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been so fun.
Thank you for having me.
This has been a great little podcast.
Yes.
I love our little random talking about all the things we talked about.
So random.
We're so weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can people find you if they're like, oh my God, I love her. Where do I find her?
My Instagram handle is Lauren J. Arnett.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure. I
think it is.
always forget what it is.
I think it is. And I will say, I thought your name was Lauren Jarnett.
Yeah.
But then maybe, you know.
I bet other people think that
But
too.
then you
it's
get
so
to have
get
the opportunity to tell them, no, it's Lauren J. Arnett.
To correct them.
Yeah.
A perfect handle is hard, and I think it might change again in the future. You know, I used to have like a fun handle, and then I was like, I guess I should have my name. It was LJ has an Insta, because LJ is my nickname, and so I have like all my accounts were like LJ blank.
Yeah, has an Insta.
LJ has an Imgur. Imgur.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh yeah.
The photo website.
Yeah, I was a big photo bucket person.
Oh, I never got on there.
I was a big photo bucket person, but you're a little younger than me.
Yeah.
A lot younger, I should say.
So much younger. Yeah, we're in different generations.
Yeah, totally different generations. Well, anyway, listeners, you can follow this podcast on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Instagram, and TikTok at Life in Bold Pod. And you can follow me, Ben Hawes, your sexy host, on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube at Laugh with Ben. And thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you have a great day. Why am I stumbling with this so much? I hope you have an amazing day. An even better week. And do not forget to live your life in bold. Thank you.
Amazing job.
That was so good.
You have your branding